If you thought 90 Day Fiancé, the other way was going to calm down, think again. Because the past few weeks have been a whirlwind of quiet clues, emotional curveballs, and choices that could change everything. Tonight, we're catching up on the entire cast, from relationship turning points to family shakeups, surprise life moments, and the kind of behind-the-scenes tension that never makes it look simple. Hit like, subscribe, and let's get into it. Khloe Fabiano's last 12 months feel like one long exhale that never quite finishes, because the story keeps tightening and then slipping into these quiet, telling moments online. On the show, the emotional center stays the same. She is still the young woman who uproots everything for love, moving to Aruba for Johnny Fernandez while the ground under the relationship keeps shifting. That tension is what makes every small update hit a little harder, because even when Khloe isn't saying much, the timing of what she does share lands like a shadow passing over a bright room. Earlier in the season coverage, the pressure builds around trust, and it isn't abstract. Khloe's distrust intensifies after Johnny asks her to stop sharing his location. She agrees, but she also admits she doesn't actually feel safe in the relationship. And then, the show captures how far that insecurity pushes her. She hides out and watches his entire work shift, turning anxiety into something physical, something that has to be seen with her own eyes to feel real. It's not glamorous or romantic. It's that awful stomach-tight feeling of trying to prove to yourself that you're not being fooled, even as the act of checking proves how little trust is left. Family only makes the stakes sharper. When Khloe's mother comes to Aruba, the visit becomes its own kind of turning point, because it's not just the couple arguing anymore, it's a family witnessing the life Khloe is considering. Johnny shows them his living situation, and the reaction becomes part of the public conversation, framed as a real-world test of whether this move can actually work. And then, as the year pushes forward, Khloe's own social posts start to feel like the quiet soundtrack underneath the loud episodes. In July, she shares an "until next time" moment that reads like a door closing gently, the kind of caption that suggests transition without explaining it. In August, she posts "night and day," a simple phrase that still carries contrast, two sides of the same relationship, two versions of the same person, before and after everything changes. What stands out most in the recent stretch is the way Khloe shifts from being watched to speaking back. She puts out content where she responds to hate comments, turning the noise into something she can control, even for a moment. It's a public response that says she sees what people are saying and she refuses to just absorb it quietly. By early January 2026, the most definitive development arrives through on-screen reporting. The relationship collapses after Khloe finds disturbing messages on Johnny's old phone. The aftermath is immediate and raw. She's in a hotel, and when he argues that she violated his privacy, it doesn't undo what she's seen. Khloe signals she's ready to return to the United States, and she says the betrayal ruins her feelings about Aruba. Johnny Fernandez is living in that strange, very modern reality. TV spotlight where your real life is unfolding in real time, and the internet is watching every reaction like it means something. Over the past year, his name stays tied to one relationship that keeps tightening with pressure: his romance with Khloe Fabiano on 90 Day Fiancé, The Other Way. And right now, the story doesn't feel like a slow drift apart. It feels like a hard, sharp snap. The season centers on Khloe moving her life toward Aruba, trying to make a future work with Johnny in the place he calls home. But even the practical parts carry emotional weight. In one of the most concrete steps forward, they sit down with an immigration lawyer to talk about what it would actually take for Khloe to work in Aruba and build a stable life there. The conversation forces the big question into the open: what are they really doing, and how serious is this? The options on the table push marriage into the frame as the clearest path, and you can almost feel the relationship being measured in paperwork and consequences. At the same time, the show highlights the softer, messier reality that paperwork can't fix, family approval, first impressions, and the kind of everyday responsibility that either reassures people or scares them off. When Johnny brings Khloe's mom into his world, the visit doesn't land as a warm welcome. The moment becomes a stress test, and it turns into a visible crack in the foundation. The home situation, the readiness, the vibe of how prepared he is for shared life. It all reads on screen like a red flag, and it leaves Khloe's support system even more uneasy. Then everything escalates into something far more personal and far more devastating. Khloe finds what's described as incriminating messages on Johnny's old phone. It's the kind of discovery that doesn't just start an argument, it changes the air in the room. When she confronts him, Johnny doesn't simply accept the moment as a breach of trust that needs to be repaired. He shifts the focus to privacy, accusing Khloe of invading it, and suddenly the conflict isn't only about what she found, it's about whether she even had the right to look. Khloe's response is immediate and heavy. She leaves for a hotel, and what follows isn't framed like a cooling-off period. It's framed like a breaking point, with Khloe signaling she's ready to go back to the United States. As these episodes air, the official 90-day social media leans into the heartbreak of that adios moment, spotlighting Khloe's discovery and the confrontation like the season's emotional cliff. And Johnny, meanwhile, shows signs that he's aware of the wave he's caught in. On Instagram, he leans into the attention with a meme-forward post that nods to his pirate persona, the version of himself viewers are reacting to, commenting on, reshaping into a character. It's not a formal statement, not a tearful explanation. It's more like a wink that says he sees the conversation happening around him. What's left across the past 12 months is a relationship story that moves from hopeful planning to public unraveling. There's the attempt to build a life in Aruba, the pressure of family judgment, the weight of legal decisions, and then the moment trust collapses in a way that's impossible to ignore. Johnny's year doesn't read like a neat reality TV arc. It reads like real people under bright lights, trying to hold on to something that's slipping, even as the world watches it fall apart. Luke Berry stays loud, present, and impossible to ignore this year, and the clearest proof is that he says it himself. In May 2025, he pops up online with that confident, attention-grabbing energy. "Your boy Berry is back, baby. Who wants the tea?" And it doesn't feel like a casual post. It feels like a curtain lift. Like he knows exactly what kind of chaos and conversation follows his name, and he's stepping into it on purpose. By late August 2025, he makes it official in his own words, telling everyone he's back at it again on 90 Day Fiancé the other way, pointing viewers to TLC Mondays at 8/7C and signing off with that same branded swagger. And with Luke, it's never just about showing up on TV. It's about showing up everywhere on screens, in comment sections, in the places where people argue, meme, and pick sides. You can almost feel the shift in the air as his online persona syncs up with the show's return, like he's bracing for impact and inviting it at the same time. The story around him is still tied tightly to Madeline Perez in Colombia, and the way it's framed publicly is intense, wedding dreams, money pressure, and trust problems all tangled together. The network describes them in that familiar, high-stakes reality. TV language planning, something lavish while the relationship strains under the weight of real-life stressors. Luke's presence online doesn't soften that picture. If anything, it sharpens it, because he keeps engaging with the tension instead of hiding from it. And then the headline moments hit. In an exclusive preview shared through major coverage, Luke admits that at his bachelor party, a stripper came over, and the reaction is immediate and volcanic. Madeline doesn't just look hurt, she erupts, accusing him of lying, and the fight spirals into a scene that's messy and unmistakably emotional. Food gets thrown in his face. She storms out. It's the kind of moment that lands in your stomach, because it's not framed like a playful misunderstanding. It's framed like a rupture, like two people trying to stand on a foundation that keeps cracking under them. Not long after, another scene pulls viewers in even deeper. A pregnancy test moment that gets described as feeling unusually real. Even people who normally roll their eyes at reality TV see something raw there. Something that suggests this isn't just about a wedding storyline or a dramatic edit. It's about the kind of fear that shows up in a quiet room when the cameras are still rolling, and the future suddenly feels heavier than anyone expected. Outside the episodes, Luke leans into the backlash rather than avoiding it. In September 2025, he posts content built around reading hate comments, and by early November, he's still doing it. Flat out saying, "See you guys in the hate comments," like he's turning the heat into fuel. It's a strange kind of armor, half defiance, half performance, and it keeps him in the center of the conversation, whether people are cheering him on or tearing him apart. Even his visuals keep the Columbia thread alive. By October 2025, he's posting from Meline, reinforcing that this isn't just a storyline location. It's part of the world he's choosing to show publicly. And as the year closes, his tone flickers between reflection and provocation, a more thoughtful, road less traveled kind of caption in December, then a year-end caption, this post that feels like one more pull of the audience closer, one more reminder that he's still active, still watching, still inviting people to react. What emerges over these 12 months is a Luke who is openly announcing his return, openly absorbing criticism, and moving through a relationship that the public narrative paints as intense, high pressure, and emotionally combustible. He isn't disappearing between episodes. He's staying present in real time, posting, responding, and keeping himself planted right where the drama lives. Madeline Perez is back in the spotlight right now, and the way her story lands this past year feels equal parts glamorous and raw. On TLC's side, the framing is crystal clear. She and Luke Berry return as one of the couples at the center of 90 Day Fiancé the other way, with the relationship still sitting on that razor-thin edge between big wedding dreams and can we even trust each other long enough to get there. The official promo tone pushes the romance forward, but it also leans into the pressure cooker they're walking into, because this isn't just about love on camera anymore. It's about money, control, and what happens when the fantasy has to survive the day-to-day. The season's marketing paints the picture in bold strokes. Luke is making the move, the wedding plans are big, and the spending feels like it has its own heartbeat. TLC's own description emphasizes the scale and the strain at the same time, even calling out the idea of multiple dresses and the reality of a budget that can't magically stretch forever. And that's what makes Madeline's presence feel so electric in this moment. She's shown as someone who wants the celebration, the beauty, the certainty of a next chapter. But she's also in a relationship where every unanswered call, every vague explanation, every "it's not what you think" can set off alarms. And then the show drops viewers straight into one of the most nerve-wracking moments a couple can face. A pregnancy test scene that's described as feeling unusually real. It's not glossy, it's not cute, it's tense. The air feels tight, like both of them are holding their breath at the exact same time, because that single result has the power to change everything about their future, whether they feel ready or not. In a franchise that people love to debate and second-guess, this is a beat that's noted for reading as genuine emotion, the kind you can't easily fake when the stakes suddenly feel personal. But the deeper jolt comes from the trust fracture that's playing out in public. In a widely shared preview, Madeline confronts Luke about a bachelor party weekend where he goes silent. And when he finally explains himself, he admits a stripper came over. Madeline doesn't let it slide with a forced smile or a polite shrug. She presses him, demanding the truth, warning him she will find out, and when she senses excuses and half answers, her anger turns sharp and immediate. The scene escalates in a way that's impossible to ignore. Food thrown, tears, a storm out, and a lingering shot of Luke left at the table, stunned, while Madeline breaks down alone in the car, whispering, "Ay Dios mío," like she's trying to steady herself through the shock of it. Even the official cast coverage leans into that same emotional temperature. Entertainment. Weekly's rollout describes a moment where she accuses Luke of touching another woman. He denies it, and the argument detonates into a dramatic exit and dessert smashed in his face. It's messy, it's public, and it's the kind of conflict that makes you feel the imbalance between what someone wants to believe and what they're scared is true. And through it all, what stands out most in the last 12 months is how Madeline is shown moving between two worlds at once. One is the world of pageantry and achievement, where she shares that she's pursuing pageants and celebrates winning another title. The other is the world of a relationship under a spotlight, where love is being tested in real time and the cost of trust feels painfully visible. She's not presented as quietly coasting through a fairy tale. She's presented as fighting for clarity, fighting for respect, and trying to protect her heart while the cameras keep rolling. Manon Berryman spends this past year living in the kind of spotlight that doesn't just shine, it presses. On screen, she and her husband Anthony are already described as married with a toddler and teetering on the edge of burnout, and the story around them feels immediate and claustrophobic in the way real life does when there's no room to breathe. The move to France is framed as a last-ditch effort to save their marriage, but it doesn't arrive like a romantic reset. It arrives with clashing family members, mounting financial stress, and the blunt reality of zero personal space, even down to one detail that tells you everything about how stretched they feel. They're sharing a bed with their child. And in the middle of all that, Mannon's relationship with work becomes a heartbeat running through everything. She agrees on the show to slow down a secret beauty line after concerns rise about how much she's carrying and why. She explains it in a way that isn't flashy or influencer perfect. It's rooted in fear and survival, shaped by growing up with money instability and that lingering worry about debt and how to put food on the table. It's the kind of anxiety that doesn't turn off just because you get married or because cameras follow you. It follows you into every decision, and it makes slow down feel less like self-care and more like stepping into darkness without a flashlight. The tension doesn't stay contained to the show either. As the season heats up, the internet does what it always does, and Mannon becomes a target. On December 1, 2025, she directly addresses one of the ugliest, most repetitive comments she says she keeps seeing. What does he see in her? Instead of pleading or shrinking, she snaps the conversation back into place and tells people to ask him directly, refusing to perform insecurity for strangers. It's quick, sharp, and it lands like a boundary being drawn in real time. But she doesn't stop there. Later that same day, she follows with a reel that shifts from light to serious, telling viewers she wants to have a real talk. The vibe changes. It's not just about one mean comment anymore. It's about the weight of being judged as a wife and a mother through an edited storyline, and the exhaustion of having your relationship treated like a public vote. You can feel the moment where humor stops working and honesty takes over. Anthony steps in publicly as well, also on December 1, posting a statement that reads like a hand placed firmly on Mannon's shoulder. He says people have had a lot to say about his wife and their marriage, including comments telling him to run or that he can do better. And then he draws his own line. We've had our challenges. Loving someone isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to work through the challenges together. It isn't flashy. It's not a clapback for applause. It's a husband insisting, plainly, that their marriage is not a meme. As the year closes, Mannon leans into something else that's quietly telling, building a life beyond the episodes. On December 31st, 2025, she promotes Anthony's Twitch and asks her audience to follow him. It's small, but it's specific, and it reads like a couple trying to turn attention into something steadier, something they can control. In the space between a stressed move, a pressured marriage, and a public backlash, Mannon's most recent year looks like constant negotiation. between love and survival, between privacy and visibility, and between the person she is at home and the version of her the world thinks it knows. Anthony Berryman's last 12 months feel like one long, breath-held pivot, less about chasing a dream and more about trying to keep a marriage from slipping through his fingers. The story people see on screen is big and cinematic. Anthony and his wife Mannon packing up their life and leaving Los Angeles behind to start over in France. But underneath that headline is something quieter and heavier. Two parents carrying a whole relationship across an ocean, hoping the new country can hold what the old routine couldn't. That emotional weight is right there in the way their move is framed, not as a carefree adventure, but as a relationship reset with real stakes. When Mannon is shown struggling with the idea of leaving LA, it's not just about a city. It's about identity, comfort, and the life she built on her own terms. Anthony, meanwhile, comes across as the partner trying to keep the plan moving forward, even when forward feels like it's ripping something tender behind them. The tension isn't hidden. It lives in the small moments where reassurance isn't enough, and where actions start to matter more than promises. As the months roll on, that pressure doesn't simply disappear once they arrive. The move to France becomes its own kind of stress test, and the conflict is presented as immediate and ongoing arguments that don't feel like a one-episode blip, but like a pattern that flares under transition. Even the lighter moments, an outing, a date, a shared experience meant to bring them back together, are shown as revealing personality differences and clashing priorities. There's this sense that every attempt to make it cute ends up exposing something deeper. What each of them thinks a stable life should look like, and how hard it is to align those visions when you're already exhausted. And yet, the biggest development isn't just the fighting, it's that they keep building anyway. By early 2026, the storyline shifts into something more concrete, a first look at the home they're establishing in France, a real space, real walls, a base that signals permanence, or at least a willingness to try for permanence. It reads like a milestone that's less about aesthetics and more about proof. Less talk about saving the marriage, more evidence of planting roots. The home becomes a symbol of the promise they're still trying to honor, that this move is not a detour, it's a decision. At the same time, Anthony's public presence carries its own emotional edge. In late 2025, he posts on Instagram in a way that feels like a line drawn in the sand defending Mannon and pushing back against the volume of online criticism aimed at his wife and their marriage. It's not polished PR language, it's personal, it's protective. He signals that the commentary has moved beyond show talk and into something that hits home. And the response around him turns into a storm of debate in the comments, proof that their relationship isn't just living in France, it's living in the court of public opinion too. Then there are the smaller, human snapshots that cut through the noise. A quiet post in May 2025, just throwing rocks in the river, feels like a deep exhale, the kind of moment you capture when your life is loud, but you're trying to find something simple and steady. And on Veterans Day in November 2025, Anthony's brief, matter-of-fact acknowledgement of his military background adds another layer to how he's seen, someone who carries identity and pride alongside the pressure of being watched. Taken together, Anthony's year isn't about one single headline. It's about the strain of starting over, the tenderness of defending the person you love, and the stubborn choice to keep building a life, even when the cracks are visible, even when the room is full of opinions, even when home is something you're still trying to make real. Jenny Slatten is still doing what she's always done best on The Other Way, turning a long-distance love story into an everyday life that's messy, emotional, and painfully real. In the past year, she and Sumit Singh stay visibly connected, publicly choosing each other again and again, even when the quiet parts of marriage feel harder than the dramatic parts of TV. On March 4, 2025, Jenny marks 4 years of marriage with a simple, affectionate anniversary post that says everything without over-explaining it. 4 years married, still here, still standing, there's something steady in that, especially for a couple that so many people once insisted would never last. But stability doesn't mean comfort. Jenny keeps speaking in a way that makes it clear she's still chasing something basic and human: privacy, independence, the feeling of having a home that actually belongs to her and Sumit. In December 2025, she puts it plainly when she shares an update about their living situation, one that leaves people confused at first because it flips the expected script. Instead of Jenny and Sumit being the ones to move out, she says Sumit's parents are planning to move out and Jenny and Sumit are staying in the home. And you can feel the relief underneath her words when she says she wants her privacy back. It's not a petty wish. It's the kind of wish that comes from months of feeling observed, corrected, or simply crowded. That pressure isn't just about space. Jenny also admits something more vulnerable: what it costs her emotionally to live in India. She says she depends 100% on Sumit, that she's lost a lot of independence. It's a stark sentence because it isn't romantic. It's the reality of building a life in someone else's country, in someone else's family system, where the rules were written long before you arrived. And yet, even in that same breath, she describes Sumit as the most caring guy she's ever known. That contrast is the heart of their story right now. Love that feels sincere, paired with the light that still asks her to bend. At the same time, Jenny and Sumit keep pushing forward with their shared project, Singh's Family Cafe. She talks about it like something that finally clicks into place, something that starts feeling real and strong, especially once they have the coffee machine that changes the rhythm of the business. There's pride in that. The kind of pride you hear when someone realizes they're not just surviving another season of stress, they're building something together, one customer at a time, one day at a time. And then there's the moment when the public worry creeps in. In December 2025, attention turns toward Jenny's health after fans notice her speech seems slurred in a recent clip, and the concern grows loud enough that her daughter steps in to address it publicly. It's a reminder that being a familiar face on reality TV means your body and your voice can become part of the conversation, even when you never asked for that kind of scrutiny. Through it all, Jenny remains remarkably consistent. She keeps showing up, keeps posting, keeps telling the truth in small, plain sentences. She's not presenting a fairy tale. She's presenting a marriage that lasts because they keep choosing it. While she keeps reaching for privacy, for independence, and for a life in India that feels like home, not just a place she stays. Sumit Singh's life right now feels like one of those stories where the big victory finally arrives, and then it comes with a brand new price tag. On screen and off, he and Jenny are still together, still married, still determined to prove their love wasn't just a TV moment. You can hear it in the way they speak about each other, and you can see it in the way they keep showing up side by side, even when the reality around them gets complicated. Over the past year, the clearest thread running through their updates is this: they're fighting for a sense of normal, adult independence while living inside a house that doesn't feel like it belongs to them. Jenny says out loud that living with Sumit's family is really hard, and she doesn't soften it. She says she wants her independent life back after months under the same roof, and that one sentence lands like a quiet confession. It's not that she doesn't love Sumit. It's that love doesn't automatically equal freedom, and right now, her daily life feels supervised, controlled, and boxed in. Sumit is stuck in the middle of the kind of tug-of-war that can wear a person down slowly. He admits he has a hard time adjusting back in after years of independence, and the weight of it is heavy because it's not just about personalities, it's about expectations. His parents want to live with them forever, and the word forever doesn't feel romantic in this context. It feels like a locked door. And when Jenny is the one pushing for space, the burden lands on Sumit to translate that need into something his family can accept without turning it into a betrayal. The tension shows up in the smallest details, the kind that sound almost absurd until you imagine living them every day. There are moments where Jenny feels she has to hide things like alcohol in the house, like she's a teenager trying not to get caught. There's a sense that even daily routines can turn into a battleground where someone else decides what's appropriate and what isn't. At one point, the family dynamic becomes so present that even something like yoga turns into a symbol of pressure. with Sumit's mom pushing Jenny into activities and expectations she doesn't necessarily choose for herself. And it's not only the immediate household, the wider family energy can sting too. There's an explosive moment where an aunt goes straight for the age gap, calling Jenny old, in a way that isn't playful or offhand, but sharp and humiliating. That kind of comment doesn't just insult Jenny. It challenges Sumit's choices, his marriage, and the life they've tried to build together. It reminds you that for them, the conflict isn't always behind them just because they made it to the altar. In the middle of all this, there's another pressure point: work and survival. Jenny and Sumit are navigating the stress of their cafe, and it's not presented as a cute dream project. It's gritty and frustrating. They talk about real operational struggles, even basics like not having running water. And you can feel how quickly those kinds of problems become emotional problems. When a business is fragile, the couple running it has to be sturdy. And when the couple is already strained by family tensions at home, every setback at work hits harder. Still, there are flashes of tenderness that keep their story from collapsing into pure conflict. They publicly celebrate being part of the 90-day world with a message that love conquers all, and it doesn't read like a slogan to them. It reads like a promise they keep repeating because they need to believe it. In the summer, they post romantic affirmations that lean into their happily ever after, as if they're reminding the world and themselves that they're still here. And on their 4th wedding anniversary, Sumit's message is simple but steady: 4 years down, forever to go. In a life full of noise and opinions, that kind of quiet commitment is its own kind of defiance. And then, as the year closes, there's a hint of change in the air. Jenny shares that Sumit's parents are going to move out, which sounds like relief, but also like the end of a long, tense chapter. It suggests a return to boundaries, to privacy, to a marriage that can finally breathe. But even in that hopeful shift, you can feel what this year has demanded of Sumit: to be a husband, a son, a mediator, and a partner who keeps choosing love, even when love doesn't come with peace.